But for this role, which is the valuation side role, you need to be good in obviously the product side and also the coding side. Am I correct on that?
10 to 15% of the work requires hardcore coding, but the rest 85% you can do it just using Excel.
Why did you pursue CQF? I mean, what was the thought process, or what triggered that certification for you?
So I did CFA and FRM. I completed those two, and then I always had this curiosity and intrigue nature that I want to learn more. But then that would have required a lot of investment in terms of money as well as my time as well. I had like a very curious mind to how to make games in Excel. But having an exposure of masters in financial engineering, when you go to the college, you build connection. I mean, I would say 80% of the benefit that you get from master's course is your connections.
Okay. Now, what has been your experience that within the risk side and also in the valuation control side? What skill sets people need to succeed in those roles? Hello, guys. I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also help students who are preparing for financial certification exams like CFA, FRM, and other certification. And as a part of that journey, we also talk to a lot of people from the industry trying to understand what are the different roles that are available in the finance section and how somebody who can achieve their career into these areas. What are the opportunities that are available and what are the skill sets that are needed right now to get into that role. So today we have with us Mudit Gupta. Mudit, first of all, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. So basically, Mudit has a good amount of experience in this field. He started out his journey with the valuation team, and now he's also into the consulting side. So he's going to be talking about his experience and also about different queries that a lot of students have. I'll be asking that to you. So Mudit, if you can give a brief about your journey uh, from the start, how did you manage, and also about your certification that you've completed.
Sure. And first of all, thank you so much, Ganesh, sir, for inviting me in this talk. Yeah, I'll start off with my journey. So my finance journey started when I was doing CA course. By the way, I did not complete the CA course. I did intermediate IPCC, and then I was preparing for my CA final examination. And that was exactly when I realized that I just love finance. So I started taking tuitions for CA final examination, and then I took this tuition SFM, Strategic Financial Management. And then when I was studying for Strategic Financial Management, that was when I completely knew that audit, taxation, those things are not my calling. Finance is my calling, right? So I got to know about the CFA course. So that is how I went into core finance. I did CFA course. Apart from that, I did FRM as well. So together with CFA, I did FRM while my this articleship was on, CA articleship was on, and once I
Mhm.
completed my CA articleship, I decided to completely drop C. So that was one of the biggest decision that I had to
Yes,
take. Coming so far in this CA course, and just I did not even attempt CA final even once, because I knew that I can attempt, I may pass, but I would have to invest like 1 or 2 years of my life to study
right.
audit, taxation, those things which is not my calling. So taking
Okay.
that one decision was very big for me, to drop CA and completely go into core finance. So I did CFA and FRM together. And then once I completed my CFA FRM both, I passed all of the examinations in first attempt. I did take tuitions as well. So that's one thing that I normally recommend to students. And I'll talk about that in a bit. So once I completed my CFA and FRM, I got my first job into Credit Suisse. So that
Mhm.
was based on my FRM certification. I was into
Okay.
risk management, and I was reporting to Credit Suisse Mumbai office back then. It was a middle office role, risk reporting role. So I
Okay.
stayed there for 2 years. I did a lot of experiments into automation, learned programming languages, those things. And then
Okay.
along with my job, I did the CQF course, which is Certificate in Quantitative Finance.
Right.
So when I did the CQF course, so basically CQF course is combination of mathematics, finance, and programming. These three things.
Mm.
Right? So my
Right.
exposure to programming, I had a lot of other exposure to programming as well. For example, Python programming, where I learned machine learning, deep learning, all of those things in the CQF course. And then after that, based on my CQF certification, I got this role into PwC, which was valuation in complex securities. So this role change was a complete, like this role is completely different from risk management, of course. So I went to PwC, did this valuation of complex securities based on my CQF certification, and then I
Mhm.
was there with PwC for 4 years. I had a great time over there. And I can also talk about the difference in my experience in risk management versus valuation, in a middle office role versus a front office role. So those things I experienced in my career. So I was there with PwC for around 4 years. And then recently, in January this year, I shifted to Grant Thornton. Again, the similar profile, which is valuation of complex securities.
Okay. Okay. Now, for the audience, when you say valuation of securities, okay, if you can give one example that what kind of
Hmm.
activities are done in the team, or what different roles are available
Absolutely.
within that same team. Yeah.
Correct. So our job typically includes two broad categories. It can be divided into two broad categories. The first one is assisting the audit team. Big Four firms or Grant Thornton, they all do audit of companies, right? So
Right.
in the financial statements, we have value of certain derivatives, certain instruments, contingent consideration, certain debt. So they have to audit the same. So they reach out to our team in advisory valuation to check if the valuation of that particular instrument is right or not, or is it correct or not, or can the firm get comfortable with that particular number or not. So that is one broad category. That's one part of the work that we do. We assist the audit team. The second broad category is the client services, that we provide valuation services to the client, where we reach out to the client. They give us all of the agreements and the terms and agreements of those instruments, for example, that we have to value. We build model from scratch, and then we prepare the
Okay.
valuation report and send it to the client. So that is like a revenue generating hand of our work that we do.
But for this role, which is the valuation side role, you need to be good in obviously the product side and also the coding side. Am I correct on that?
So it is not a prerequisite. It's not a requirement for the valuation role. But if you know coding, it's then you have an edge over everyone else. So I
Okay.
would say around 10% of the work, 10 to 15% of the work requires hardcore coding, but the rest 85% you can do it just using Excel.
Okay, okay. And also, but the basics about the product, like what are different
Yeah,
types of products that might be there and how
absolutely.
it works, what is the cash flow, that all has to
Mhm.
be clear to you before
Yeah,
you
that has to
join the team.
be extremely clear. Yes, yes. And I've interviewed like a lot of candidates for this role, more than probably
Okay.
70 to 80 candidates for this role. And there's a typical pattern that I see. People working in valuation role, they know how to run the models, but they don't know what exactly it's happening behind the bars, behind the curtains.
Yeah.
So they don't exactly know what happens behind the code. They just know how to run the code. Basic fundamentals of finance has to be clear. Only then you
Okay.
can actually excel in this particular role.
Okay. And I'll go back to that risk role that you started out with. So was that a credit risk specific role or a market risk specific role?
That was market risk,
Okay.
and that
If
was a
if you
risk
can
reporting role.
risk reporting role, if you can give us a
Yeah.
brief about that role also, that generally in market risk, one of the role that reporting happens. So what exactly happens in that?
So in market risk reporting role, what we used to do is our basic responsibility used to be preparing risk report at one bank level. For example, Credit Suisse as a whole. So we used to prepare risk reports at one bank level, and
Okay.
then we had different kinds of reporting. We had regulatory reporting. I was part of the UK FDSF reports. So that's one part of regulatory reporting, and then for US we had Volcker reports that we had to prepare, and then we had multiple other internal reports as well, where we had market risk reports. So again, even there we had this proprietary tool which used to calculate the risk metric. We just need
Okay.
to get the numbers from the tool, prepare a report in Excel, and send it out to a team which actually analyzes that report, and they're called market risk managers, MRM team. So our
Okay.
responsibility
Okay.
was just to get the numbers from a software and prepare a report. That's it.
Okay. So initially the role that you were into was not hardcore into risk primarily, but then
Correct.
into the valuation side,
Mhm.
you got the flavor of the products also. You got the flavor of the coding also, right?
Correct.
Now,
Yeah.
why did you pursue CQF? I mean, what was the thought process, or what triggered that certification for you?
Absolutely. And my journey of CQF is very interesting. So I did CFA and FRM. I completed those two, and then I always had this curiosity and intriguing nature that I want to learn more. So what is next? So I was thinking of masters in financial engineering
Mhm.
from some colleges in the US, but then that would have required a lot of investment in terms of money as well as my time as well. 2 years, probably more than 2 years, and also for the preparation of that. So then I thought of going for CQF. I did a lot of research, comparison between masters in financial engineering versus CQF. But then I went ahead with CQF. So the reason why I studied that was just to know more about finance. What else can I know more about finance? So that was the triggering point. While when I was enrolling for CQF, mathematics is one of the prerequisite, and in CQF you need to know mathematics to the level of stochastic calculus. So, and in my experience, I did not have any exposure to mathematics because in class 11 and 12, I had business maths. So that only had statistics,
Okay.
no derivation, no integral, nothing. So I was very skeptical. Should I even go for the CQF course or not? Because it is relatively a expensive course compared to CFA FRM. So then what I did was I started building my math background. So there is this great resource called Khan Academy, which provides
Yes.
mathematics classes. So I started from class 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way till IIT level mathematics. I built up my base for mathematics. And then once I was confident about mathematics, I went ahead to go for the CQF course. For programming, I was fairly confident because while I was doing CA, I had like a very curious mind to how to make games in Excel, for example. So while I was doing
Okay.
my CA articleship, I started learning VBA coding. So that was the first programming language that I learned. Back then, we did not have AI, so I had to like read all of those Stack Overflow forums, Mr. Excel forums,
Uh,
do a lot of trial
Research.
error, and then
Uh,
learn
uh,
exactly. Read the documentations, library documentations. I've done all of it. So these days, people just do ChatGPT and that's it. So I learned VBA initially, and then while I was doing CQF, I had to learn Python, and there I had built programs with machine learning, deep learning. So that gave me a great exposure in Python
okay.
during CQF. So yeah.
Okay. So primarily it was the curiosity about numbers side of the business. But when you talked about this, you also mentioned about the financial engineering side. So when you
Yeah.
compare to an MBA or a master's in financial engineering and CQF, does CQF complement or replace the need for financial engineering course?
Based on my research, it could not replace it. Definitely, it is a distance learning course. You get all the classes from the CQF faculty. That's okay. But having an exposure of masters in financial engineering, when you go to the college, you build connection. I mean, I would say 80% of the benefit that you get from master's course is your connections. In CQF,
Hmm.
you cannot have that connection, right? You can have some groups that you can be part of, but you won't have that one-to-one connection and networking.
Okay.
And then the rigor of the course, a master's is probably a 1 year or a 2 year course, but the CQF is a course which you can complete in just 6 months. So I completed in my first attempt, which was in 6 months. So again, the
Okay.
rigor also matters, and the networking, everything matters. So you get the real grill in a master's course versus a CQF. But given that I had some limitations or restrictions, so I went ahead with CQF course as my best alternative.
Okay, okay. Now, what has been your experience that within the risk side and also in the valuation control side, what skill sets people need to succeed in those roles?
So in risk management, I would say skills, if you do an FRM course, that is one of the best courses for risk management, of course. You get to know a lot about risk management, how to calculate the risk metrics and all of those things. I think FRM is a very relevant course if you are planning to go into risk management.
Okay.
So that is one of the skills. For valuation, I would say that you have to have an overall, good fundamentals of finance, overall finance.
Okay.
So that is the skill required there. And in both of those, you need to have like really good analytical skills. So that goes
Hmm.
without saying. No matter in any role you are in, if that role involves numbers, you need to have good analytical skills.
And if
And
because
I
you
would
have
say
also done.
programming language would go for both risk management as well as valuation. because when I was in risk management, I used to do a lot of coding and automation of reports, because my role was limited to only risk reporting, making the
Okay.
reports, not analyzing the report. So I did a
Hmm.
lot of automation over there as well, saving times to run report and all of those things. So programming goes, for both of the roles.
So my next question was connected to programming only. If somebody starts out now, fresh, okay, and you're guiding him that how to learn that entire automation part or how to learn a new language like Python. If you can guide
Mhm.
any student, how will you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that?
absolutely. So before guiding, I would share my experience of programming and learning how
Yes.
to code in Python. So I started off with YouTube videos, and right now the number of YouTube videos that you have for to learn Python is immense. You can like literally search how to learn coding in Python. You'll get thousands of videos. So no one have any excuse as of now that I can't learn Python programming. And Python programming is the most user friendly programming language. It is extremely simple. I had also some exposure to C++, and that versus Python is way better. And currently, if you're in finance, Python is the way to go, absolutely. So what I did was I picked up one YouTube channel, and then I saw all of the videos. He was an amazing coder, and he taught everything very well, all of the concepts very well. Then I went to Coursera. I did one of the most famous courses in Python, Python for Everybody by Charles. So I did
Okay.
that, and then I did some courses from Rice University as well. So those things, those concepts may not be exactly useful at work when you're automating or when you're doing finance valuation through programming. They might not be completely relevant, but when you get some exposure to programming, then you actually learn all of the concepts and then you get hold of it. Those two resources that I used, YouTube videos and Coursera courses.
And when we talk about the technical skill set, we have talked about Python, but there are others also like MATLAB, R, VBA. So, what is your view on these other languages?
Correct. So Python is open source; it is free of cost. So someone who want to learn any programming language, they won't go and buy MATLAB licenses, which cost like lakhs and lakhs. So MATLAB licenses would they cost a lot, and they're normally used by enterprises. R, I don't know a lot about R, but what I know is that is a statistical programming language. But
Yeah.
in my experience, whatever you can do in Python, whatever you can do in MATLAB and R, you can do in Python. But there may be cases where something that you can do in Python, but you can't do it in R, for example. So
Okay.
Python is a very robust programming language, very easy, free of cost, and even all of the enterprises currently they are shifting from programming language like MATLAB and R to Python, given its open source nature and free of cost. And
Okay.
VBA, it is a must know, because mostly I would say, as I said, 85% of the work is done in Excel. In risk management, when I was there in risk reporting, 100% of the work was done in Excel. So if you want
Mm.
to do some automation in your Excel, then you should definitely know VBA. In general, I know VBA, Python, and MATLAB. In my experience, these different programming languages, just the syntax is different, but the underlying logic of
Yeah.
how would you
Algorithm.
program, yeah,
Yes.
that's universal. The kind of loop that you would run in VBA is the same that you would run in Python, just the syntax or the language is different, but the underlying logic is the same for all.
Okay.
So
I like
once
to add
you know coding in one programming language, you can do it in other platforms as well.
right. You just need to know the syntax basically, how to write the code
Correct.
and all. But I'll just add one more point over here, like Mudit was talking about.
Mhm.
So there is a platform called MIT Open Courseware where you get the
Absolutely.
videos, and they
Yeah.
have a Python videos where he basically talks only about how to write a code. He's not teaching explicitly Python, but he's saying how do you think about a code or an algorithm. So and he takes gives you different examples, and then he starts writing the code likewise. So that is what also I
Correct.
think so a lot of other people can look at understanding
Mm.
how better you can code. Now, from the perspective of giving both FRM and CFA, what is the benefit that you got when you prepared for both exams first? And do you recommend people to do both?
Okay. Interesting question. So, what are the benefits of doing CFA and FRM? So, when I did CFA and FRM, I just wanted to know more about finance. First, I went for CFA. And then when I was doing tuitions for CFA, then I came to know that there's something called FRM as well. Me enrolling for FRM was not very strategic because I was very young back then. So I just saw my friends doing FRM. I saw the curriculum, it was good, so I went ahead for FRM. And for CFA,
Okay.
I did a lot of research because I was comparing whether I should go for CFA or MBA. So that way, I did FRM because my friends were doing it, and it's an amazing course. So now, if I would have a choice whether I should do FRM or not, or CFA or not, so now when I recommend or guide people, I ask this: if you are absolutely sure that you have to go or you want to go into risk management, then you should close your eyes and just do FRM because that's one of the best courses for risk management. But if you
Hmm.
want to have a good exposure of finance industry as a whole, and if you want to learn a plethora of things, for example, debt, equity, real estate, alternative investment, all of those things, you should definitely go for CFA. There's no course better than CFA. The core curriculum of CFA is so good
Hmm.
that
Yes.
I can just speak for hours and hours. It is one of the best courses out there for finance.
So doing both is also good. Have you seen the value for it? That's what my question was in the industry.
Yeah, the value for doing both, I would say, when I was doing FRM Part 1 was very much comparable to CFA Level 2. Like there
Hmm.
were a lot of things which were the overlap, right?
Right.
Apart from the core risk management, concepts like VAR and expected shortfall, all of those things. So for me, doing FRM Part 1 was equivalent to CFA Level 2, but FRM Part 2 had a lot more, difficult concepts. And FRM Part 2, by the way, was the most difficult examination I had attempted compared to CFA, FRM, CQF, and CIA. All four courses, FRM Part 2 was the most difficult. So benefits of having a
Okay.
FRM along with CFA, it gives you an edge, in terms of so many different distributions that you learn. And matlab, definitely you can have some additional benefit if you do FRM, but I would
Hmm.
highly recommend FRM only if you are sure that you want to go into risk management.
Now, in terms of interviews, you must be taking a lot of interviews of young guys who are coming. So, what are the normal questions that you ask them in the interviews for judging their understanding about the content in finance?
Absolutely. So I ask questions which, ensures that if the answer is correct, that means the basics and the basics of finance is clear. So, for example, one of my favorite question is the interpretation of ND2 and ND1 for the call option valuation. So in Black Scholes we have these two components, ND1 and
Yes.
ND2.
Yes.
Right. So, so this is the way I ask that if the ND2 is zero point 0.4, then explain that in one sentence. And so it is the probability that the call option will be in the money at
Hmm.
maturity. And ND1
Right.
is similar to delta. And then I ask, a few mind-boggling questions. So when I start the interview, the first question that I ask is, you have an apple tree and you have to do the valuation of apple tree. You're about to buy the apple tree. I am the owner of the apple tree. You can ask me many questions that you want, and you have to do the valuation of an apple tree. So then there's no
Oh,
right or
okay.
wrong answer. But what I test is the approach and the thought process. And one of my recommendations to everyone who is about to interview for any role, whenever you are answering a question, whatever goes into your mind, just speak up. That would help the interviewer know what is the thought process, because the right answer or wrong answer, the answer can be right or wrong, that's fine, but if your
Okay.
thought process is clear, then you have a good chance of getting selected. And one of my another favorite question is valuing a call option on rainfall. So the underlying asset here is rainfall, the levels of
Rainfall.
rainfall.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then you have to value that call option. So, in this question, if someone has really good fundamentals of derivatives and options, they would know that first of all, they would think whether they should apply Black Scholes or not. Because Black Scholes has the underlying assumption that the underlying asset follows a log normal distribution and the return on that follows a normal distribution.
Right.
So, should you assume that rainfall follows a log normal distribution or not? That's the first question. And then when I ask this question, people use the drift rate as risk free rate, that is treasury bond rate. And then I
Okay.
ask that what is the connection between a rainfall and a treasury bond rate? There's no connection, right? So
Okay.
What should be the drift rate? And again, for this one, even I don't know the right answer. Even I don't know what's the right answer. But I just want to know what are the things that the candidate is thinking while solving that.
Okay, interesting, interesting. And one advice from your end to all the new guys who want to enter into finance. Okay, one career related advice.
One career related advice. Okay. So I would advise on one thing, and I have spoken with a lot of candidates who are entering finance. They ask me which course to do and all of those things. We have a lot of content out there in YouTube as well, and I guide them as well. But one thing that I see again a pattern that people do CFA level one, for example, they do not take tuitions. So when you're taking tuitions, should you take tuitions or not? That completely depends upon the candidate.
Okay.
Someone can be absolutely fine with self learning, okay, self study. I was absolutely not that kind of a person, so I really needed tuition. So people,
Okay.
what they do is they do not take CFA level 1 tuition. They say that okay, I will just read some material which is available, and I'll just pass the exam. In CFA level 2 I will take tuitions. That is a
Hmm.
very wrong approach. You should definitely not do that, because when you're building a infrastructure, if the base is weak,
Foundation.
the building won't hold good, right? So you should absolutely go for CFA level 1 tuition if you are not really good in self study, because that is the building blocks of your career.
Right.
And one advice from my side would be that if you have your fundamentals very clear, then you can go to extremely high levels in your career. But if your fundamentals is not strong, then your upside is blocked. You are a capped call in that case. Your upside is limited. But if your fundamentals are clear, you are just a call option. Upside is, it's open. So you
Okay.
should definitely work a lot on your basics and fundamentals of finance.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful, Mudit. I mean, this conversation is going to be really helpful to a lot of students, a lot of young guys who are trying to make their career into finance. And thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us about this entire journey that you had and what has been your experience. So again,
Thank
thank
you
you,
so
Mudit.
much, Ganesh, for having me. Yeah, thank you.